week 2 of the fantasy baseball season, and I know it's early in the season here, but here's a few hitters I would look to sell high and trade away this week. The first guy's Ryan McMahon of the Colorado Rockies. So McMahon, he had a big ball game last week with a 3-home run game, is McMahon, and he was a breakout player last week, and he's been added in a bunch of fantasy leagues over the first 2 weeks of the major league season here. But McMahon on the season right now, he's 12 for 41, 5 home runs, 9 RBIs, a 293 batting average, a 310 on base percentage with 7 runs scored. So McMahon last season in the short year, the batting average was low. The on base wasn't that great as well. And right now, I think McMahon, he just ran into a hot streak, but he's going to slow down and not do much. So right now, while his numbers look great and he's off to a good start, he's a player I would look to sell off this week, maybe for a reliever, maybe for a starter, or him just for another hitter, because the last few games for McMahon, he hasn't done much. April 9th at San Francisco, 0 for 4. April 10th at the San Francisco Giants, again 2 for 4 with a home run, 2 RBIs. April 11th at the Giants, 1 for 4 with a stolen base and a strikeout. And then yesterday versus the Dodgers, 0 for 4 with a strikeout. So I think it was just a little bit of a hot streak for McMahon. And the last 4 or 5 games now, he's coming back down to earth. And if I could get something of decency for him, I think this is the time, while his value's still at an all-time high, to trade him this week. The second play is Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins. So Buxton, he was a top prospect years ago and the next big thing over there in Minnesota. And he just really hasn't had that many great seasons and mediocre seasons at best. But so far in the season, he's off to a white-hot start. 15 to 32 from the plate, 5 home runs already for Buxton, 9 RBIs, a stolen base, a 469 batting average, and a 528 on base percentage. The only thing legit I think about Buxton in his stat line early in the season is the 5 home runs. We saw him last year hit 13 in the shortened season. So I think Buxton, he could hit 25 or 30 homers this year, but I don't think the batting average will be that high this season for his head, and his stock isn't going to be any higher than it is now. In the last few games, he's definitely raking, is Buxton. In the last 4 games for Buxton, he's got 9 hits. April 8th versus Seattle, 3 for 5 with a home run and RBI, 2 runs scored. April 10th versus Seattle, 2 for 4. April 11th versus Seattle, 3 for 4 with a homer and 4 RBIs. And then yesterday versus the Boston Red Sox, 2 for 5 with a run in that ball game. So Buxton, he's getting multiple hit games now over the last 4 games for him. And while his value's skyrocketing and he's ranked 5th overall in fantasy baseball right now, this is the time I would definitely look to trade him and see what I could get out there. Obviously, I'm not going to dump these guys just for anything, but while their value's hot and while they come back down to earth, this is the time to sell them high and get good value from them. The next play is Max Muncy of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So Muncy, he's definitely carved out a good role over the last few seasons here for the Dodgers, and he's been a mainstay for that roster over the last 4 or 5 years, like I said. And the good thing about him in fantasy, he qualifies at first, second, and third base, and so far he's off to an amazing start as Muncy. 14 for 35, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 9 runs scored with a 400 batting average and a 543 on base percentage. But Muncy, no way I can see him continue hitting at a high batting average like this. And we saw last season. I know last season is a short sample. It was tough to go off a lot of things. But last year he batted 192. So I don't see Muncy hitting 300 this season. Obviously, knowing he's not going to finish the season batting 400. But right now, while he's on fire, this is definitely a classic sell-high candidate is Muncy. And his last couple games, he's been doing work. April 10th versus Washington, 2 for 2 with 2 runs. April 11th versus Washington, again, 1 for 3 with a run. And last night versus the Rockies, 2 for 3 with a homer and 2 RBIs. So Muncy, he's getting multiple hits. And he's hitting for a great batting average. But I don't see it happening for much longer. And he's definitely a sell-high candidate, in my opinion. The next play is Justin Turner of the Dodgers, Muncy's teammates. Turner, 36 years old this season, and he got a good re-sign deal to stay with Los Angeles this year. And so far, Justin Turner, he's been a great fantasy player At the plate, 14 for 37, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, a 378 batting average, and a 415 on base, and 7 runs scored. So Turner, we know he's a 300 hitter throughout his career. But this season, I just got a feeling he's going to be banged up again like he's been over the last 2 seasons on and off his Turner. And right now, while he's healthy and he's producing at a high rate, this is the time to definitely sell him high. I think you could get a good starting pitcher or even a closer as well if you need for Turner here, because you're not going to get a superstar for Turner. But realistically, you could get a third or fourth starter on your fantasy roster at this time. And pitching, it's tough to come by this season so far, it looks like. So the last few games for Turner, April 7th at Oakland, 1 for 4 with an RBI. April 9th versus Washington, 3 for 3 with a homer. April 10th versus Washington, 2 for 5, a run and an RBI. And then versus Washington, April 11th, 0 for 3, and he had the night off yesterday. So Turner, like I said, he's up there in age. The injuries have been a concern on and off over the last couple seasons. And this season, I don't see him playing the 150 games this year. I could see Turner probably playing half a season or maybe reaching the 100-game plateau. So right now, like I said, while he's healthy and contributing to fantasy owners and the Dodgers, he's a definite sell-high candidate. And the fifth and final hitter that I have as a sell-high candidate to trade away this week is Nelson Cruz of the Minnesota Twins. Nelson Cruz, he's been a big slugger in this league for 10-plus seasons now. But he's up there in age of 43 years old. And he's off to another monster start as Cruz. 12 for 27, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, a 444 batting average, and a 469 on base percentage for Nelly Cruz. But already with the age and stuff, I don't know if he's going to hold up and put up these type of numbers like he's been doing, like I said, the last 10-plus seasons here. And Cruz, he's been scratched the last couple days from the lineup with an illness, but he should be day-to-day here. So the last few games that Cruz played in, April 7th at Detroit, 1 for 4 with a run. April 8th versus Seattle, 1 for 4 with a run. April 10th versus Seattle, 2 for 3 with a homer and 2 RBIs. And April 11th versus Seattle, 1 for 3 with a RBI and 2 runs. So Cruz, he's hitting the baseball. But I think the batting average is going to be low this season. The power probably still will be there. But right now, while he's way up there in value and rank, he's a player I definitely would look to sell high. And I think you could get a good starting pitcher, not just a mediocre one for him, or even just another hitter if you want. So that's a few hitters I would look to sell high or trade away this week here in week 2 of the fantasy baseball season.